Okay, we are trying this again. Hang on. I got relocated to a room that apparently is very dark, but we're just going to roll with it today. Good morning. Let's see, I'm trying to make sure that this is connecting. So you're going to see my hand a little bit. You're going to see me on making sure that the link worked because I had to use the straight Go Live feature, which I have never used before. So this is fun for everybody. All right, let's try it again. I may be doing a little bit of talking to myself because we had a late start. So I went downstairs to a cat debacle and children who are delicious but woke up a little bit earlier than normal. So I was relocated to our second room, and then the technology was not doing great. So if you have any questions, please go ahead and type them in the chat box. I would love to answer them. Just a little bit this morning, and oh my gosh, this lighting is just horrible. I'm so sorry. I'm definitely just like everybody else here, and maybe a little bit like your moms who can't figure out technology. So this week we had a few things happen that I commented on. Our senator from Maine took some really critical time that would otherwise be used for questioning a witness about something meaningful and substantive. And she talked instead about dentists instead of actual federal needs for coronavirus. And that brings up a bigger point. So I think there were a lot of jokes going around about the dental lobby doing well. And I don't think that was the issue. I think it's an issue that we see in a lot of our representatives, and that they find a completely not controversial cause to champion, whether apparently it's dental care in a pandemic or whether or not pre-existing conditions should be covered. They pick something that is just widely liked and paint themselves as an advocate of it. I think that that's a bare minimum. That's a threshold. That's not a commercial waiting to happen. So if you're in Congress, it should be a bare minimum that you care about cancer care and that you care about children and you care about unlawful detention. I mean, you should just care about those things anyway. Those should already be on your radar. Pre-existing conditions should already be on your radar. Whether or not dental care is available, and emergency dental care has been available under our orders, so it's not even really an issue that's a problem in Maine. So those sorts of issues, that should be your minimum level. You shouldn't even have to ask about those things. They should just be things that a normal, reasonable person would be taking care of in Congress. And I've noticed a lot in commercials for various candidates that those are treated like something extraordinary, like, oh my goodness, we very much have to worry about pre-existing conditions. We shouldn't send anybody to Congress who doesn't worry about pre-existing conditions. I look, in my feed at least, like I am a member of an evil faction in Star Wars or something. I will strive for better lighting next time. So, I mean, those are minimum threshold things. So I'm very disturbed that we buy off on campaigns on minimum thresholds. We should be looking for people who address critical issues where there are actually departures in policy. So, for example, immigration detentions. There are genuine and legitimate differences in policy. I think that it's still widely unpopular to try to detain children. We are doing it, but there are people who rationalize it and agree with it and find that to be appropriate behavior. And so that's maybe a policy difference you want to look at would be immigration. How we're handling the pandemic generally, I think, is something that would be a policy difference that you would look for. There's differences in environmental policy. There's differences in a lot. I think it's very easy to say the trivial and fluffy things. I think it's very easy to say, I'd like our planet to be clean and I'd like pre-existing conditions covered. So that is one of the things that has gotten to me this week. I do see that there are people starting to join the conversation. Please feel free to type any questions. If you have any, do be aware there is about a minute or two delay between when you type and when you see it. I'll keep talking for a few more minutes and see if any questions manifest. Another thing that came up this week was privacy. And that is something that I think our Congress has been woefully inadequate on. Privacy is something that is evolving. So the traditions of privacy and Fourth Amendment rights, the sort of king of your own castle, where if you were in your home, you had to have just extremely extenuating circumstances to search somebody's home. That is their private space. That is their domain. But homes have changed. When these rules were put in, there wasn't internet, there weren't phones, there wasn't technology. And we've reached a place where our law is sort of telling us that, gosh, if you give any information to a third party or a company, even if it's within your house, that's fair game. And the government doesn't seem to think that it needs a warrant for that. And I don't think that's okay. We really do need to be advancing our digital privacy laws, and we need to be changing them to adapt to the times. And releasing your data by just general use to a company should not be something that means that you've shared it and that it is now free range, availability for the government to go in and cherry pick whatever they would like. So as a part of the Patriot Act, there was an effort to essentially block warrantless searches of browser data. And that's something that's important. We need to be going back to having warrants for more information. The Patriot Act in general has some just heavily disturbing pieces that really invade our privacy and invade our ability as citizens to have some sovereignty over our lives. That's a problem. But both Democrats and Republicans have both been overly generous to the government in their intent. And we need to be having warrants for more things. A warrant is a very low threshold in a lot of cases, and we need to be keeping that piece in there to make sure that there's at least some relationship to the government wanting to have information on you that is not public and that should not be public, and them actually acquiring that. Right now, the Patriot Act has so many of those barriers knocked down that it's just not acceptable. So those were the two main things this week that I found to be very problematic. There's a whole bunch of other stuff going on too, but I don't want to take up too much of your morning. I'd like to be able to just have a little bit of snippet available for you on Saturdays. So this is sort of the first one that's really gone on for a few minutes. We have had some people join. No questions have come across yet. I'm going to start doing these every single Saturday. So call it a town hall, call it a way to connect, but have a way for us to interact with each other. In the future, I will aspire to slightly better lighting so that we're not enjoying this very red ambiance. And hopefully we'll get more questions in the future. I think it's really important that representatives be available to folks. And I think that, were I in an office, you would see pretty regular forums in a digital way. In person, I would try to do at least once a quarter and rotate it around the state. I would love to do more if possible. I do have young children, so it's difficult to travel a whole bunch on top of whatever the requirements of the job are in DC. And I think that we need people with young children down in DC so that we have that frame of reference and we have that very fresh memory of what it's like to deal with all the struggles that the average American and the average Mainer deals with. So we'll be checking in Saturday mornings. If you have any questions, I'll come on most Saturdays. I'll be here probably for at least 10 to 15 minutes, but I'll reserve up to an hour if there's a lot of questions. And let's try and connect. Thank you. Oh, and my laptop has a very unfortunate camera position, so I apologize for that too.